Now, we're going to talk about some of those things tonight if we can get to it in time. And I have so much stuff up here that I can go for days and hours, I think, with the stuff that I've accumulated.
On page 5 of this test, the last question is, what are 2 ways that Americans can participate in their democracy?
That is a bogus question, isn't it? If we want a democracy. Now, really, think about this. The Democratic Party is pushing. Think about this. Have y'all read the Democratic Party platform? I had some brochures that had it on there. And Shad, I don't know if we can get any of them or not now, but one side it had the Republican and it had the Democratic statements. And I'll tell you what, it just scares you. You look at it, and it is strictly a Democratic type platform, where that they rule, and they rule the way they want to, and that's what they're doing right now. Okay, now, listen to this. Listen to this now. Okay, John Jay. Who was John Jay? The first Supreme Court Justice. Okay? Y'all know what I'm talking about now. Okay, John Jay said, while citizens are acquainted with the duties which they owe to their God, to themselves, and to men, they will remain free. But if ignorance and depravity should prevail, they will inevitably lead to slavery and ruin. He also said every member of the state ought diligently read and study the Constitution. What did he say? He said diligently read. And he said, no, not just read, he said study the Constitution, which is what we're trying to do. And they will sooner perceive when they are violated. How are you going to know if your constitutional rights have been violated if you don't know your Constitution? And that's where we're at today. And I tell you what, it's the same thing about the Bible today. So many people are led astray on the Bible because they haven't taken the time to study it. Anyway, and so they are violated, and the better prepared to defend and assert them. So we're going to talk about the articles. We're going to talk about the Congress. We're going to talk about the president. We're going to talk about the courts, the states. We're going to talk about the amendments, the miscellaneous concepts, and the ratification. And so John Jay said it is important to know your rights. I don't think we could put an exclamation point behind that big enough to say to us, we need to know our rights. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. Up until 2008, I really wasn't up to tune on things. I was a pastor, and I had never done anything about the Congress because I was kind of like that false assumption that, separation of church and state, which does not exist. The only separation we have there is the state cannot tell the church what to do, nor can it tell you where you can go to church at. And so that was so clear in the Constitution, but they're doing it. And they're going to come after the pastors here real soon. Now, what bill was passed last year that brings us about for the federal government to come after the pastors and special pastors? Hate crime bill. Yeah. What the hate crime bill said. Y'all remember what it was? Where? Yes, ma'am, he did. Yes, I disagree with you on that vote. I couldn't have voted for it for nothing. Anyway, so the hate crime bill, they're coming after ministers. Now, some of them need to be gotten to. Y'all would agree with that, wouldn't you? Because, some of them are getting filthy rich, and they're doing it wrong, and God's going to get them sooner or later. You know that. Can I digress for just a second? We're talking about God. This thief was actually pillaging this house, and he was walking through the house, he had his sack, and he was putting things in his sack, and he walked in this room, and heard this voice says, God's going to get you. And he looked around, you see nothing, so he kept putting it in there, and he says, God's going to get you. He looked around, there's a parrot sitting over there. And so he got some more stuff, he's putting it out, taking out some good things off the shelves. The parrot said, God's going to get you. Well, he kept on putting stuff in it, and he opened this door. There was this big old Doberman sitting there, with his teeth snarling at him. The old parrot said, God, get him. I thought that was a good place to put that one in there, didn't you? Okay, now, Rick Green said that in 2001, he was in the legislature, and they passed a bill, now where that, and I don't know if this is true or not, where that the kids will study the Constitution in school. Do y'all know that? Is it happening right now? in Texas?
Supposed to be happening. They have it in our course down there.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please. Because nobody will know what you said unless you repeat that. Please.
I understand they're teaching the Constitution in the Hawkins School
Good,
District.
good. Every school in Texas, Rick said, because he brought the legislation to it, and he said that every school is supposed to be studying the Constitution. Not only that, we have a National Constitution Day. Did y'all know that? Yeah. And so what's the purpose of it? Study the Constitution. So let's take a look now at our Constitution, and let's really get into it. Now, we are going to use what Rick Green uses, is we're going to use this little booklet right here, part of it some of the time. And in it, in case y'all have, how many, I know you've got it, and y'all have all seen it. Have y'all seen it? Okay, so y'all can see this right here. This right here is the Constitution as it's written. This over here is the 1828 Webster's Dictionary interpretation of the words over on this side. And it is inclusive. It includes all the amendments. It is up to date. In other words, when you read this, this is right as it is. What is the biggest problem with our Constitution? So many times, you got to take care of the amendments. This was amended over in Amendment 27, over Amendment 25, and over in this other amendment, amended these things. So how do you know? You got to work them all out. He's already done that for us. That's why it's so valuable. And now you can, if you want one of these tonight, holler at me afterwards. We'll order some, and we can get them, I'm pretty sure, for $9. Like I shared, I paid $11.95 for mine, and I got this through Rick Green and Wall Builders. But anyway, you'll love it. You'll love it. Okay, the preamble of the Constitution. What does preamble mean? It means means before, and amble means to walk. So, a legal document where that the writers set down the Constitution. They wrote a preamble describing what they were trying to do, the problem they wanted the government to solve. So why write a Constitution? It's a collection of all the laws that they had problems with all during King George's reign. And when they fought for their independence, there were at least 27 grievances that they presented to the king. The king turned a deaf ear to them. He would not listen to them. They retaliated with the Boston Tea Party and some other things. And guess what happened? You can imagine... I believe today we've sent some grievances to our government. I believe that's still floating around because I don't believe they've heard one of them yet. Do you know anything they've heard? We sent to the government. We said we don't like Obamacare. We don't like all the rules you're changing. We don't like going in debt where our grandkids and our great-grandkids and maybe our great-great-grandkids will have to pay it off. And yet you get that paper I showed you there a minute ago where we're paying out just in quarterly. We're paying out an atrocious amount of money to all the countries around the world and giving this money away. And when we can't do it, we're borrowing money from China, from Afghanistan. I mean, not Afghanistan, but yeah, right, yeah. And China's already got such a debt on us they can live off of the interest by itself. So they got us. And not only that, we mortgaged 50 square acres in Montana to China. We mortgaged other places around the country to a foreign country. Come on now. We can't do that. Violation of the Constitution. And so, some of the key words now. We're going to define these words. Kind of listen to them, because what I have information I have here is copyrighted. I cannot give it to you without violating copyright laws. So I will tell you these, and if I should ever get to where I can get them, I'll make copies of them once I get the rights to do it. But blessings now. This is what we're going to talk about in our in the preamble. Blessings are those desirable things given to a person. Okay? Now, I didn't go to Webster's Dictionary and look it up. I've got a couple of things over here I did look up I think you'll be interested in. And when we get to those words, I'll come to common defense. What do we want our country to do? To defend us, all of us, so our borders are to be defended by our government. And our borders in South Texas are not defended. They're almost wide open, and we are really vulnerable, and that is a shame, and that is a violation of the Constitution on our government. Now, if I go to Congress, Lord sends me, I am going to see to it that there will be resolutions brought where that these people will be accountable for what they did. They may think they've gotten away with it right now, but there has to be accountability sometime. And ladies and gentlemen, maybe we should say tonight, the buck stops here. This is it. We are going to call you in. We're going to call the markers in. We're going to say, listen, you've done enough already. And on 2012, hope we vote that away, don't you? Vote them out. Vote every one of them out, just about out. I know that sounds kind of harsh because there's some good guys, still a few good guys around. But initially, vote them all out, because if they're not standing up, if they're not defending the Constitution against foreign nations, and they're not defending it against the local people in here, just our own nation, we're in trouble. And we are in trouble right now. Constitute, the act of or fact of setting something up. The Constitution, the way something is set up, interesting in it. The things that make up something. Domestic tranquility. Peace at home within the borders of our country. A riot is not domestic tranquility. Okay? Welfare. Ha 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 ha. That's one of the ones I want to look up right here. And do you mind reading? Are you opposed to reading? Okay. I want you to read welfare here. Yeah, well, I've got that highlighted in yellow. Let me see. Okay, the welfare up here, that one of the definitions we have is just the welfare of everyone, not just a few. People are a particular type of person, but everyone. So the welfare, general welfare covers everyone. What does that say? Oh, just a second. I'll hold it for you. I'll get that for you.
Okay, it says prosperity, well-being, organized activity to better the living conditions of the poor. Welfare, a term used for the organized aid given to needy or unemployed persons who might otherwise become a public charge. The number of welfare organizations increased after the Depression of 1929 with its increased unemployment. Welfare boards financed by public funds were established in towns and cities of the United States and were often administered by unemployed citizens. The work of these boards is supplemented by such organizations as the American Red Cross, veterans organizations, and the many social agencies to be found in larger towns and cities. Can I just say something about that?
Sure.
That's the definition in the dictionary, but that was not the definition of the Founding Fathers.
That's
Their
right.
definition of general welfare was that general referred to the welfare of the whole.
Right, and the states.
And so it had nothing to do with the poor. That's another issue. But it had everything to do with there not being any special interests. So if any law that was passed applied to everybody, and if it doesn't apply to the people as a whole, then it's not for the general welfare, and that's where we've gone astray. We're completely opposite, and it's completely opposite in meaning from what the founders intended.
And that's the reason why we use the 1828 Webster's Dictionary definition of welfare. So that's the exact reason. And you can see the difference in it, can you not? And this is a 59. This is the oldest dictionary I could find that I had. If you've got one older, it'd be interesting to look at it and see what it says about welfare. Because, you see, we think in terms, sometimes I read the Constitution, I think in terms of today. It's not. It's what was defined the day when they wrote it, what was the intent. And so that's so very important. And was there something else you wanted to say? Please go ahead, but we got to use the microphone. Okay, thank you for reading that. I appreciate that an awful lot. So justice now. Listen to justice. Justice. What is fair in matters of punishing criminals and protecting honest folk. Liberty. The ability to make a choice. We have the liberty to make choices. Ordain. Pass as a law. Establish as a law. Posterity. Your children, their children, and their children, and so on. And a union is a group brought together for a purpose. Unions can be strong or shaky. Okay. Now we're going to read the Constitution made simple. Now, you've got it right there, so if you'll go to the preamble of the Constitution, I'll let you turn over right quick, because we read the Constitution as defined and as brought forward by the 1828 Webster's Dictionary, and it reads like this. Okay, you ready? Okay. You can follow along in your little hand Constitution. You've got your little hand Constitution there, or you've got your big sheet. Is it in here? Okay, right here's the preamble on this sheet you've got right here. And so you read along and you can see the differences. It's the Constitution explained. That's good right there. So either one of those that you want to use.